Okay, so we're going over the local update of census address operations, also known as LUCA. And during today's presentation, we will introduce the 2020 census and the 2020 LUCA. We'll discuss, review, and update strategies, identify the digital materials, discuss the Census Bureau supported software known as GUPS, and identify the paper materials. Okay, so let's move. And we'll look at, and finally do the submission process. So, okay, in this section, we'll introduce, the decennial census, the 2020 LUCA, Census Bureau terminology, and how you can prepare for the 2020 LUCA program. Okay. The purpose of the decennial census, also known as the 2020 census for this decade, is to conduct a census of population and housing and disseminate the results to the President of the United States and the American people. The United States Constitution mandates an actual count of every person residing in the United States every 10 years. So if you're ever discussing the census with anybody, it's in the Constitution. So and the primary use of the decennial census data is apportioning representation among states as mandated by Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. But additional data uses include drawing congressional and state legislative districts, school districts, and voting precincts by tribe, state, and local governments, and enforcing voting rights and civil rights legislation by the Department of Justice. And we're also distributing over $675 billion in federal funding each year to tribal, state, and local governments. Missing a housing unit and the associated population during the decennial census may result in a missed opportunity for governments to benefit, which perpetuates until the next decennial census. And Leslie had sent out an email describing, and you get almost $2,000.
Yeah, in Montana we get over $1,900 a year in federal funding that is based off of the census population count.
Per person.
Yes.
So if we miss 100 people or 1,000 people, it starts, it's big bucks. So we don't want to miss anybody, and you don't either. And are you looking to get another congressional district, do you think, or not?
We're on the possibility list, but very low.
Low, okay. So you don't want to miss that opportunity if you get another representative, because you only have one.
Correct.
Right now. And, it'd be nice to have two, I suppose. Somebody else loses, though, Pennsylvania or Ohio. But that's what the Constitution mandates. So that's why we do the census. And lastly, the census data plays a role in informing the decisions of governments, businesses, and nonprofits regarding numerous topics such as community and regional development, education, agriculture, energy, environmental programs, as well as other community improvements and enhancements. So the planners use this data a lot so they can, make decisions. Departments of Commerce use it all the time. So it's a very important program, and we need your help. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, this slide, starting at the bottom left, we begin to establish where to count. The Census Bureau must establish this and identify all the addresses where people could live. The Census address list contains the residential addresses that form where to count. And then next, on the top right, the top left, we need to motivate people and get them to respond. Very important. And on the top right is we then count the population. And finally, we move to releasing the census results to the President on December 31st, 2020. Okay, so the LUCA background, the Census Bureau List Improvement Act of 1994, which became public law in October of 1994, authorized the Census Bureau to share its address with governments who signed confidentiality agreements. It was first implemented in the 2000 census, and LUCA was later refined to support the 2010 census and now the 2020 census. LUCA provides a voluntary, once a decade opportunity to tribal, state, and local governments to review and comment on the Census Bureau's residential address list for their jurisdiction. So LUCA is an opportunity for all of you to review what we have, and you have to sign this confidentiality agreement, and then you can see what we have. The Census Bureau is kind of like a black hole. All the information comes in and it gets digested, and then we send it out after we've looked at it all. And but individual information is highly confidential, and so by signing up for LUCA, you're actually getting to look at what we have. And then who can participate? Federally recognized tribes with a reservation and or off-reservation trust lands, states and counties, incorporated places, and places or cities, towns, boroughs, and villages, and townships and minor civil divisions. You all have townships here, don't you?
We don't.
Oh, you don't have townships. Okay. North Dakota and South Dakota, they have a lot of, So we have to send everybody in North Dakota in a township, even though there's 5 people living in it. They're still a recognized government.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So. Okay, the confidentiality and security. Title 13 protects information provided to and from LUCA, and it requires the U.S. Census Bureau to ensure confidential treatment of census-related information, including individual addresses and structure points, also known as map spots on the paper LUCA materials, and maintain the confidentiality of all the information it collects. LUCA requires all liaisons, reviewers, and anyone with access to this material abide by the confidentiality and security guidelines, and requires all LUCA participants, liaisons, reviewers to sign the confidentiality agreement. Okay, so here we go to the schedule, and we are down to October, check mark, and we're doing the training workshops, which is what we're doing today. And December 15th is the deadline to register. And I would encourage everybody to go ahead and register. You can always drop out later if you find that you don't have the resources and ability to do this. If you just don't have the time. But it would be good if you do register, and that way you can participate, and or you can always designate a county to do it for you, but at least you are registered. So I'd encourage everybody to register, and it's okay if you drop out also. There's no requirement. This is totally voluntary, but you get that opportunity. And if you miss the December 15th deadline, then you can't participate until 2030 comes around.
Dwayne, what if you already said that you don't have the resources? Is there any way that you could change your mind now before the 15th?
Yes, you could. If you have declined registration and you decide you want to, you can email us at the Denver office and say you want to participate, and then we can put those, we can send you the PDFs. You could sign them and email them back to us and re-sign up. But once December 15th occurs, that's it.
So can I interrupt?
Sure.
So if anybody is interested in doing that, just please contact CEIC and we'll help you with that. And also the State Library, Michael Fashaway is going to be leading doing this on a state level, and I'm going to be assisting. So you can always sign up to get all the information and go through it, but then actually have Michael or I assist you with actually doing that and putting in at the state level.
Thank you. Okay, so everybody's going to sign up, okay? We'll send the census police after you. There are no census police. Okay, so then in February, we will start sending out materials to the LUCA participants. And this starts in early February and runs through April. I mean, if you can imagine trying to send out tens of thousands of entities their information, it's a huge project. So it takes us quite a bit of time to mail it out, or figure out who gets what, whether you're going for paper or digital. And then from March to September, you will you'll actually from February to April. Once you receive your data, you have 120 days to complete it. And then from March through September 2018, we will be processing all that information. And then from April to May of 19, we'll validate all this stuff. And then the summer of 2019, you will get feedback, and if we have missed something, here is a time for you to maybe contest some of the addresses that we didn't ingest into our system. And then April 1st of 2020 is Census Day. So let's go through a little bit of terminology. We've got a lot of new people that have never participated in the census, and so we'll just cover a few things. A housing unit is the first thing. It's a single-family house, townhouse, mobile home, trailer, apartment, group of homes, or a single room occupied as a separate living quarter, or a vacant intended for occupancy as a separate living quarter. So if a house is vacant now, we still want that address. And so that's a housing unit. And acceptable housing units are townhouses, condos, apartments, and living quarters within otherwise non-residential structure, such as an apartment within a church, school, or business. Mobile homes or trailers occupied as separate permanent living quarters or a vacant and intended for occupancy as separate permanent living quarters. Any housing units under construction that will be habitable close to the elements with the final roof, windows, and doors on census day. So you can count if you feel a house is under construction now and will be completed, you can count that house in your address list and give it to us, and we'll count the people on April 1st.
That's almost 2 years before you would count it. That would...
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, some people take a couple of years to build a house. They might have a trailer house. They might be living in a trailer and building their house, and but they would be, you would count that address where they're currently residing, possibly.
So if a builder was coming in and putting in a tract of homes, if they had a finish date that was around that, you would then assign those.
Right. And we also have a new construction program that is in 2019, and we will try to capture all of the new homes and the new construction that occurs. And that's just another program that we will look at. And so if you're aware of some of that new construction that may not have started yet, you don't have the permits, but it starts later. And we try to run that new construction up as close as we can to that April 1st deadline. So but you'll hear more about that.
Okay. And that's not within BAS. That's a separate program. Okay.
Right. It's not in the LUCA. It's not BAS. It's a totally individual program. So that's an important thing. Okay. Next we have group quarters, and group quarters are it's not a typical type of living arrangement. Services may include custodial or medical care, as well as other types of assistance, and residency is commonly restricted to those receiving these services. Residents of group quarters are usually unrelated.
And then we had one question, Dwayne. So it's
Okay.
120 days they have from the time they receive the data until they have to validate it and get it back, right?
Correct. You have 120 days to review our data and update your the census address list and get it back to us.
Great. Thank you.
And the day starts, the clock starts ticking the day you receive it, because we have when we send it out, I think we have a return receipt that comes back to us.
Okay. Because you guys take a month or something to send them out all over the U.S., but then you expect to get them in so you guys can probably process them as they come in.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, acceptable group quarters for LUCA, such as correctional facilities, jails, prisons, group homes, halfway houses, and homes for people with special needs, juvenile facilities, and nursing homes, and assisted living homes, for the elderly, and so we need to have those group quarter addresses also. Very important. A lot of people live in those. We have hospitals, and we count people in the hospitals. More of the the people that are kind of residing in the hospital. If you're only in for a couple of days, that doesn't count. But it's people that are bedridden. And hospice facilities. Another important place is colleges, the university dormitories, frat houses, the whole college thing, and that can be tough to do also, because I don't know when spring break is, but a lot of people leave on spring break. So, but it's actually where you live most of the year, and most of the college students live within the community for the year.
And I think one of the difficulties is the no response follow-up is after they already go home for the summer break.
Right. So we try
to get them on census day. They're not going to get counted in your county.
Well, yeah, we will send people out and knock on doors after, but
they'll be home by then.
They could possibly be home, and you don't want them to be home. You want to count them in your community. Of course, if they live in your community and they're not in the college town, you want them counted there. So it's really where you live for most of the year. And most college kids live in the dorms, or in the town, for most of the year. Workers, in group living quarters or dormitories, and you have a lot of man camps here in Montana, in the eastern side of the state, at the Balkan oil fields, and you want to count them there, because they may have a family down in Louisiana, and Louisiana wants to count them. So, but you want to count them because they're living up here and they're using your resources and facilities. So you kind of want to get them counted. Of course, they move around a lot and live in temporary places too. But if they're living, most of the year up here, you want to try to count them. Religious group quarters, you have, what do you call them? Where a lot.
Hutterites?
Oh, yeah, Hutterites. Hutterites. And then you have, Catholics have, like where the nuns live and the priests.
Like a monastery?
Monasteries. So you have monasteries. So you want to count all those people, and that's a group quarter. And any group quarters under construction that will be habitable by April 1st. Okay, there's unacceptable housing units and group quarters for LUCA. And if homes are scheduled for demolition. The Denver regional offices has all the way from Texas to Montana, Utah to Nebraska, Kansas. So we have a huge area, and we just had, some bad floods down in Houston, and that's part of our region. And a lot of those homes are going to be demolished. They may be rebuilt by Census Day, and you probably had some homes burned this summer up here, and so if homes are scheduled for demolition, we don't necessarily want them. But if you think they might be rebuilt, please add the address. It's better to send something out and get it than to miss it. Your RV parks, where people stay for, a few weeks, like the KOA campgrounds, where they don't really get mail, we don't want to count those people.
But if they're staying there on Census Day and they're normally mobile, they would be counted there, correct?
Well,
in group quarters, then.
Or as a housing unit, if they're living in a KOA campground for months on end, we have we will try to capture them in the non-response follow-up. If that's where they're kind of, if they're kind of mobile people, but they don't really have a home address, a place where they call home, but they're living here, Colorado, and I'm sure Montana, in the ski areas, it's a very transient area, and you have a lot of snowbirds that go to Arizona in the wintertime, and they're migrating around Census Day now, but you got a lot of people moving from the ski areas, and they're starting to close up. Maybe yours stay open a little bit longer, but in Colorado, around April they're starting to leave a lot of the workers, and it's a continual problem. Arizona, they in Tucson, you've got a lot of homeless people living there, and they start migrating north, in April. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for all, to try to capture where everybody is, because there's a lot of movement going on too. Some people use residential homes for storage, offices and businesses where no one is living. We don't want commercial addresses. We only want residential addresses. Very important. So, hopefully your lists show only the residential addresses, because we cannot accept a commercial address. So, are there any questions on unacceptable housing units?
Dwayne, just for clarification, I believe that's a new requirement this year for LUCA addresses, is they have to have a residential, commercial group quarters descriptor or tag on them. You're obviously not going to want the commercial one.
Right. There could be people that have a business downstairs and they have a residence upstairs. We want the residence upstairs. We don't want the commercial. It could be the same address. But if they are living upstairs and it's a residential address, include that. But the commercial stuff, we can't accept that stuff. And then we have city-style addresses, and they include a house number and street name, such as 212 Elm Street or 137 Clark Court, Apartment 3, and These are your city-style addresses, 911 type of addresses, and for LUCA. Very important, the participants adding multi-unit addresses, such as apartments, we have to have the apartment number or the unit number, something like that. We can't accept just one address for the whole building, because the way we run the census is we mail out to all these addresses their card, and so they have to respond to that, and each card will have a unique identifying number. So we can't send it to, one apartment complex and have 20 people pick it up.
So each housing unit has their own census form. So if there's 50 apartments, you get 50. But if there's 2 or 3 families living in one housing unit, they only get one form.
Correct.
And then another question came in of prisons. How are those done, or are those part of LUCA? Is there group quarters?
It would be a group quarter, and prisons, we would go to the warden and get the numbers. We wouldn't send to the individual inmates.
So in LUCA, do they count prisons? Do they not count prisons? What do they do?
Yes, we want the prison, and we want the the address where the prison is.
But that would just be one
address.
Okay.
One address, but it would come under group quarters, not a housing unit.
Correct. Okay.
Okay. Is that make sense?
That works.
Okay. And then the prison facility would fill it out how many inmates they have.
So they get group quarters get sent a single form that is filled out as for the entire group quarters, whatever.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And what are other types of group quarters? You have prisons,
Nursing homes, assisted, elderly care facilities. My mom is in, an assisted living facility, and there's probably, 400 residents.
Okay.
But only that residence will get one form, and they will fill it out how many residents they have on census day.
Or like an orphanage or any of those kind of things where you have many people living in one place.
Right. And group quarters tend to not have related people. They're unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
They might be, group homes for mentally challenged people, things like that.
Does the address as submitted have to designate that it's a group quarters, or?
We would want it in the group quarters listing.
Okay.
You will have in the LUCA there's group quarters, and that's a separate column from a housing unit. And a housing unit is an individual type of unit. It could be, like a duplex. Each home would get its own address, and that wouldn't be considered a group quarter. Group quarters tend to be unrelated people living together.
So the local government will have to, as they're going through the list, will have to designate which addresses on that list are group quarters versus, regular housing units.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, non-city style addresses, and they do not include a house number and or street name, but it may include incomplete house number and street name. Frequently used non-city style mailing addresses include a local description with a map spot, a rural route, box number, and a highway contract route, and box number. And you know, if you don't have something that the post office can deliver to, but they live, you know, they live out in the woods, and I think, you know, I think you probably have some people that live out in the woods. It may not have an address, but we will send someone out there if we know they live out there. We will send, and that's part of LUCA also. But if you know the road that they live down, and you can put that map spot on a map, then we will send people out there even if they don't get the mail. Okay, now we move on. Now there's some things with preparation that you can do, and some of the early tools include the address block counts. We have a Census GeoCoder, and we have Tiger Web. And I am going to bring up go to LUCA. Okay, I encourage everybody to go ahead and you know, look at, you know, pull up the LUCA website. All you have to do is Google Census LUCA.
Somehow we changed.
Oh.
Okay, I think we're fine.
Huh.
I don't know what happened.
Well,
Hello.
That's,
You made it.
okay, this is the LUCA website, and everybody is encouraged to go to this site. Just, you know, Google Census LUCA, and it'll get you to this page. And if you scroll down, there's a lot of good information, and we have this section, how can I review the address block counts for my entity? And you can go here, go, and then if you're in a county, you can go get your county and download these. And I'm going to pull up, and we will email this to everybody. And this is for the GIS people, especially the ArcGIS people. It's not a real census document. It's something I put together. So if there's any mistakes, you know who to come to. And this is for the people that are here in Helena. It's it's out on there.
So we here in Helena have a package of handouts that Dwayne provided, which we will then post to our website, or I'll email out to everybody who's attending today, along with the slides.
Okay, so this is how to prepare for the, you know, you can do a little pre-work, and if you know that our block counts and your block counts are the same, then you don't have to worry about those, and you don't have to waste extra time looking at that stuff. But where we have differences, that's where we want to, that's where you need to focus your energies and not waste a lot of time. So this is kind of a step-by-step way that you could do this if you have the ArcMap. And So if we go to the bottom, the last page, this kind of shows what we're looking at. We have a GeoID. This Anytown HU. Let me zoom into that. So we have the Anytown housing units, and that would be, say, your housing units, and the census housing unit count by block. We have 1 in that first one, and you would have 110. I actually did this with Douglas County in Colorado, and it includes, the state, county, tract, and block number. And, if you go down to the fourth one, there are 20, we have 26 and 26. So you wouldn't even, bother looking at those addresses in that block. You want to only concentrate on the ones where we have differences. The 1616, don't worry about it. But, the 3726, our address counts are, we don't have the same addresses as you. You may have some new places that have been built. So this is a little pre-work that you can do and kind of, get prepared to, let's only look at these blocks. We don't have to look at every block and every address in our whole list, because that's, wasting a lot of time. You don't have, everybody's budget is stretched to the limit right now, and but
this data is available currently, correct?
Yes.
People can do this and then highlight which blocks, then they have their 120 days to review the ones that they've already noted that need review.
Right, and so you would have the block, the GeoID, and the block number, in your area. So you're wanting to look at those blocks, and each block, has a different count. So those are the ones you want to concentrate on. You don't want to, if you've got the same numbers, don't worry about it. So this will be sent out to everybody that wants it, or we'll post it to the website. Right.
What will
we can
document?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could where you could download it.
We'll somehow get it to everyone.
Okay. But it is not an official census document. Okay. just saying. But I think it's a pretty good step-by-step way of kind of starting, to look at what you need to do for census. We also will include a way you could look at the GeoCoder, and that's another thing on. Let's go back to this website. Back here. Okay, and then we have the Census GeoCoder right here, and you could compare your address list with our address list, and where there's problems, then that would give you another way of looking at the blocks that you need to concentrate on. And so we have another document that's will be made available. It's GeoCoder document, and we'll send that out. And as with most GISs, when we ingest data into our system, or one of the biggest one of the biggest problems we have is formatting data. Everything has to be aligned correctly, and this document does a pretty good job of going through, making sure that you're getting the stuff formatted correctly so you can run it through our GeoCoder. And you can run up to 10,000. It says on the website 1,000. Don't believe us. But we don't want everybody, well, on this page it says 10,000, and you can run up to 10,000. I've run up to 999,000, and it worked pretty good. But on the GeoCoder website, click there, I think it says 1,000.
So you would do this for each one of those blocks then that you decided that you needed to look at?
You would submit your address list.
The whole list.
The whole list into our GeoCoder, and it will return when you have a match and when you don't have a match. And it's kind of a way of you looking at what we have also.
Okay.
So if it doesn't match up,
Two different processes, one based on just the address and one based on how many addresses in a block. So just two ways to double check. So if you do them both, you should know where you need to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, forgive me for trying to catch up because we did come in the middle of your thing, and I apologize. But do we still need to run things through a GeoCoder if we're submitting actual? I mean, can we just submit the point data instead of submitting a table into a GeoCoder?
This is pre-work. This is before you get your after you sign up, you get your data in February, March, or April.
Mm-hmm.
This is stuff you could be doing now to kind of look at what blocks need some attention.
Because you only have 120 days to work with the data. So this is kind of pre-work, so when you get it, you know which areas you need to compare.
What threw me off is we've got about 40,000 structures, something like that, in our county, and it said 10,000.
You could split it up into 4.
Okay, put this down
Yeah.
here now.
Yeah, you could do 4 chunks, and it'll come back.
Okay.
So this would be a good route to go if, for example, you're a place, I know of certain towns and stuff in Montana that don't have structure points or GIS versions of their addresses. This would be a good way to create points to help you build out that list in advance. And or it'd be a good way for counties that already have GIS structure address points to compare. You could basically export it as a table and then re-geocode it to see what didn't come up as matched, and that would give you an idea of where you might have some issues as well.
Right.
And is the output a geocoded point, or is it just a table of these match and these don't match?
It gives you the lat long.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives you the lat long. So it
Okay,
puts.
cool.
But it'll also return us statistics on unmatched addresses?
Right.
Because we'll be submitting a bunch on roads that you don't have yet and things like that. So.
Right. So we may not, and it's a way for you to see what we have.
Excellent.
And so then these are things that you can do to, prepare for the LUCA program when you get your data.
Yep.
So you don't have to, okay, where do, because you don't want to look at every street and every address, down the list and compare it. It'll drive you nuts.
Right.
So you just want to find the blocks where you have missing homes and compare those. And You know, we may have places where we have a lot of homes and they may not exist. You know, you may have had some fires, or those homes don't exist anymore. Houston's a good example. There's a lot of homes that aren't going to exist, and you know, at the end of this year. So these are just some ways you can kind of look at some of the early tools, and I really want to emphasize, you know, getting out and looking at our LUCA website. Just Google LUCA Census and it'll come up, and a lot of good information there. So, and the Tiger Web, you know, it's just kind of will help you get familiar with the different types of the way the mapping system works. It's not the, I don't know, it's kind of slow. And I want to go through something here now. This gives us an idea of, you know, the hierarchy of the way we, you know, look at stuff. So the census block is the smallest unit, and this diagram will be available on the website. And so the census blocks are the smallest unit, and that's what we, you know, is the foundation of the census. And census blocks can have as few as 0 people in it, and it, you know, I don't know what the maximum is, but it's probably 200 or 300 housing units, and it could be more. You know, I suppose in New York City, where you have huge high-rises, you know, you could have 1,000 people and more, 1,000 units. I don't know. I don't know how many people live in some of those buildings. But then we aggregate a lot of the data and put that in block groups. And I think the average block group would be about 39 blocks. And then the next size is census tracts. And we want to do about 4,000 is optimal in a tract. 8,000 people is about the max. Sometimes we will adjust it a little bit up in certain cases, but a tract should be between, preferably about 4,000, because then you can do some good statistical analysis on 4,000 people. You know, it gives you good representation. If you got too many people, so then it goes up to, you know, some of the stuff over here we don't mess with, but then places are the next big deal. Places are cities, towns, and then we go up to counties, and the states, you know, decide who gets the, you know, the legislative districts. We don't work on that, but we are the holders of that, of those maps. So counties, states, divisions, and I don't know what a division is. I know we have 6 regions in the state, in the country, and then we have the nation. So that's how everything breaks down. So, but the census block is the building block of everything about the census. Any questions on? Okay, so thank you for returning. Hope I'm not putting you to sleep too bad, but so now we have the product preference combinations, and there are 7 product preference combinations, and each individual entity will have to decide what they're capable of doing. We will send out GIS shape files or paper products. And for, if you have 6,000 or less addresses, you can request paper. Anything above 6,000 and you have to take a digital type of, LUCA product. But 6,000 addresses, if you had to look at that, it's a lot of paper that you'd have to go through. And if you're a small entity of maybe 500 addresses or less, paper might be a quicker way to go than going digital. But we'd send it out in the digital. You can take it in Excel, or you can take it in GUPS software, or do it in the shape files if you're using ArcMap or some other GIS product. And if you need help with deciding which type of product would best fit your needs, you could give us a call and the phone number will occur at the end of the slideshow. But you could either get in touch with Leslie or call the Denver office, and try to walk you through what would be the best product for you if you haven't already decided. And you can always change, but do sign up because December's coming up quickly. Okay, things to consider. When preparing for your LUCA review, consider your time and staff resources. Remember, you have 120 calendar days to review and provide the Census Bureau with your submission. And review time begins upon receipt of your materials. If your entity decides to switch product preferences, the 120 days does not reset after receipt of the new materials. So once the clock starts, it continues. Also, consider the availability of an address list or other source of address information. If the address list exists, does not include multi-unit structure identifiers such as apartment 1, unit A2, number 4, this information is required for the 2020 LUCA submissions. And when adding new records to the address list or updating the address list, and please include just residential. We cannot accept commercial addresses. Okay. And I just covered that slide, and let's go potential address sources. So you can go out to your E91 address files, and that's a great source of new housing construction, building permits, things like that. Housing inspection records, planning, zoning records, utility records can also be good, but you have to watch out because they tend to not separate commercial with residential. You might be able to look at the value, or the cost. If it's $10,000 for a month, well, that's not a house. But it could be a group quarter. So, but it's a place to look. School enrollment, driver's license files, if you have access to those, and the voter registration files can also, give you some addresses. And then identifying priorities. When deciding how to conduct a LUCA review, consider your time and your staff and available local address information. If a complete review is not possible, focus on your review of the areas listed in alphabetical order and not, I'll forget that. Okay. But identify your priorities. Where are most of the people living? If you're stretched for resources in the office, try to get, the best bang for the buck in getting the addresses. Beginning your review. As you begin your review, assemble all of your local sources of information, local address sources, local map sources. Take time to read the LUCA Respondent Guide, and you'll be getting that, and that accompanies the materials. So take the time in reading that LUCA Respondent Guide and review the online presentations when they become available. So this will be available for a while, and the Census Bureau will be adding more stuff to the LUCA website. And then product preferences. This section identifies the specific product preference choices that are eligible to receive digital address materials. And so you have a digital address list, and a paper, and we'll go through this GUPS shortly. Everything will be Title 13 unless you choose large format papered maps. And everything will come in as a comma delimited text CSV format. So you can import that into an Excel sheet or another GIS type of software. Okay, here's how you would get an address list into Excel, and you have to import it. You don't just click on it because it doesn't work that way. So remember, import, and there will be directions on how to import, but this is pretty much how you would see this. Let me see if I can zoom in.
I don't think you can do that once you're in that slide view, but it should be big enough for the people online.
Okay, so this would be how, if you were to get a digital list, and with this Latin long, you can import that as map spots into your GIS. The address count list, which you can go out to the website and get now, is not Title 13 because it's just counting the number of housing units in that block. And so you can find these inconsistencies between the census block counts and your block counts. Kind of covered that earlier. And here's an address count list, pretty much what that handout includes. Okay, here are digital map materials and your product preferences. And here you can get your Tiger files, which are shape files, and you'd have to import those into your GIS. And these would be Title 13. And this pretty much goes through each type of product preference. And if you are having difficulty figuring out which type of product you need, give us a call, and we'll try to walk you through what would be best for you. And our Tiger Partnership shapefiles, which you could download now out there under the Geography tab at the Census Bureau, and you need GIS for that. And you can download all kinds of shapefiles and geodatabase files now. And
can I interrupt for a moment?
Sure.
We also have on CEIC's website in ArcGIS Online most of the shape files too, so you can easily connect to that if you want to avoid downloading from the census site.
Okay. And you can look at that in your ArcMap, or?
Yeah, you can just connect to ArcGIS Online and yeah, bring it over. So if anybody needs help with that or has questions, let me know.
And edits to the Tiger Partnership shapefiles. Okay, address-focused operation is what we're all about. And we are, if you have some new roads, you can add those new roads, and we're wanting those, what we don't have. And you can download our roads file and see what we don't have and update those. And we call roads edges. And railroad lines are considered edges. Rivers, streams are considered edges. So, but the only thing that we would take in the edges file would be new roads, and we'd like the new names of those roads also. And so we can geocode those.
Will there be, pardon me, a good way to tag road, edges that we've changed the attribution on, so that you can identify which ones that we've changed? So if a road name has changed or something, so an existing edge that you've got, but we've changed the attribution on it?
Yes, you would change it to like a C.
Right. How will you identify that? I mean, just by comparing it to what you got when you get it back? Or is there something on there that we can tag?
Yes, there's a field that you would put a change in, and it would be just a C. Or if the road is no longer there, you'd put a D for delete.
Okay.
And then don't you only submit the change?
Okay.
Only submit the change.
Yeah, okay, this is sounding familiar now. I've just forgotten that part.
Yeah, so you only submit the changes, not everything, and then we would filter that through.
Yeah.
Just the changes.
Those codes are familiar. Okay.
So, and just roads. We don't look at, we don't want to deal with hydro and all that. Of course, that doesn't change that much.
Changes wildly all the time, but
Well, it does, but
Not in census land.
tell that to the people in Freeport.
Tell those rivers to stop moving.
Messing with our county boundaries.
Okay, in this section we're going to go into GUPS, and we're going to look at some of the security considerations, and I've got a video that I'm going to play. It's about a 20-minute long video, and when I show this video, don't think you're going to, try to learn anything and try to retain all the little functionalities, but look at the big picture. You know, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but look at the big picture and how easily it takes a lot of the work and does it for you. Where if you're doing this work in ArcMap, you're going to have to do a lot of this yourself. You know, spatial joins and that kind of stuff to get your, and everything's got to be formatted correctly. GUPS format stuff very simply, very easily, and it's a slick package. It's free, and after the census is over, you can use this QGIS, which is the foundation of the GUPS. GUPS is an add-on to QGIS, and I've heard some very good reviews that it has very much the capability of ArcMap, and you can download it today from their website, and it's free. It's very functional, and you've used it. So you know, I know a lot of nonprofits have used it, and it's a pretty slick little program. It's probably one of the most popular open source free programs out there. So
I've got a question, maybe you're going to get to it, but if we already have GUPS installed on our desktop, is there like a certain version or compatibility issue, or do we need to uninstall it and reinstall exactly what Census sends us? Or
I would reinstall, because you have a GUPS for a different program, right?
No, I just have QGIS.
Just QGIS. Yeah, you would want to get rid of it and then use the version that we've built our GUPS on. Otherwise,
yeah. And as they come out, like the LUCA edition or whatever to GUPS isn't open yet. So they're also updating it as we progress.
So the version I just got for school district review doesn't have LUCA in there yet, so I'll have to uninstall.
Okay.
Put that in.
right.
You just wonder if it was just like an add-on that we can just install just the add-on and just access that.
I kind of figured that probably wasn't the case.
We installed QGIS kind of for the same purpose, so we could play with it first, and I didn't realize that we have to uninstall it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not going to put us out. I mean,
yeah, it's best to just use what we send you, because it's been through the ringer, and
if you have questions or run into difficulty for support, then yeah. And it will be used throughout the years for census for all of these different programs, like maybe the school district and
so the whole idea behind GUPS is to simplify your work in doing this LUCA type of stuff. We also will be using GUPS for boundary annexation survey, the schools, and we'll be starting PSAP and pre-PSAP stuff shortly, and that's about dividing up the tracks, because we'll, you know, and we use local people to make those decisions on the PSAP.
And that'll also be the census designated places under PSAP.
Yes. So we're going to, you know, we're going to be, you know, servicing this GUPS for many years to come, and so, you know, it's a pretty slick program, I think, overall. I've heard some good reviews about it. So why use GUPS for 2020? Well, it's tailored to meet the needs of those without extensive GIS experience. I've been using ArcMap since the early 90s. I think it was all command line ArcInfo, and That was a tough program, and I've been using, the Esri ArcMap products ever since. And I think if it was up to me, I would use GUPS, because it would just be less headaches. If you spend a couple days just kind of learning the ins and outs and the tweaking of it, I think it would be an easier program to work than to work in ArcGIS. But everybody has their own preferences. But I think I would go with GUPS, even though I've got over 20 years of ArcMap experience. And some of the good things about GUPS: your Title 13 stuff is automatically encrypted, so you don't have to mess with a lot of stuff and passwords and all that other good stuff that we love. And so let me pull up.
Now, if you're playing the video, you'll have to unmute.
Oh, okay. Let's see what we got. Oh, I have to unmute.
Welcome to the Geographic Update Partnership Software, GUPS, LUCA demonstration. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that GUPS is based on an open source GIS program known as QGIS, and it's free and easy to use.
Who's this?
Yeah, you're not kidding.
GUPS is being used for all of the geographic programs, including LUCA, and it's been created specifically to ease the processing and review process for user.
Okay, apparently we're not.
User can use the GUPS. We found that it's particularly useful for those governments that are
Let me see if.
about 300,000 addresses or less.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties. Let's see if we can.
Is that online at all?
It is, and let's see if I can.
Yeah, he's got the URL for it in the slideshow hanging.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, but not starting WebEx.
Well, it's a.
I don't know if you can do WebEx in the webinar. Maybe.
Maybe not. No, it's not going to work. Dang. It's always open. Well, let us. Oh, wait, here it comes. Just. Now, can they hear that, you think? Or no?
Well, it's not on if you unmute it.
Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that GUPS is based on an open source GIS program known as QGIS.
Okay, so you guys on the phone, can you guys, if there's a problem, raise your hand on the webinar if you can't see or hear this?
And it's been created specifically to service. Welcome to the Geographic Update Partnership Software, GUPS, LUCA demonstration. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that GUPS is based on an open source GIS program known as QGIS, and it's free and easy to use. GUPS is being used for all of the geographic programs, including LUCA, and it's been created specifically to ease the processing and review process for user. Although any user can use the GUPS, we found that it's particularly useful for those governments that are about 300,000 addresses or less. One of the big reasons why we're pushing this is because it is fully supported by the Census Bureau. So if anybody has any problems along the way, they'll be able to call in and get their problems resolved without any kind of other knowledge. Additionally, it standardizes the submission process and has extensive validation tools to prevent incorrect submissions by participants. When you first open the GUPS software, you're going to be presented with this window right here. It's the map management window. What the map management window does is it allows you to choose the program that you are working on. In our case, it's LUCA. And you also have the ability to later open a recent project so that you don't have to go through the entire installation setup process that we'll be going through right now. So after you select the LUCA program, you'll be asked where your data is going to be. Now for participants, it'll be on the CD or DVD, but for the demonstration, we're going to use my computer. As I navigate to the data, I'll just remind everyone that this is non-Title 13, so there's no worries. All testing data. Because it's supposed to be Title 13, you're presented with the Title 13 window where you'll have to input your password that's provided by the census. After you click OK, the files begin to extract. As you can see, they would have been coming off of a disk. You're then presented with the window that allows you to choose which counties you want to view at this time. This particular entity is within one county, so if there's only one county on the screen. However, if you have an entity that's in multiple counties, you'll be able to choose from any of the multiple counties or just one of them. As you click Open, GUPS begins to load in all the necessary data, all the layers, the address list, the address count list, and all the symbology to make it easy and quick for the user so that they don't have to search and figure out how to set everything up for them. This is all taken care of by the GUPS software. After the data is loaded, you'll see that you are presented with this map window, which shows all of the necessary layers for completing your LUCA program. You will have the census address list on the bottom of the screen, and you also notice this user address list tab, which I will get to in a minute. You will also see the address count list that's on the right, and then at the top of the screen, you'll see all your GIS or standard GIS boxes. So this top toolbar up here is for all your standard GIS, such as zoom and pan, deselecting items, saving. The second toolbar down here, this toolbar is all of the LUCA-specific tools needed to complete the LUCA review and submission. You have a show hide legend, which is for showing the toolbar on the side, so you can see which layers are active and inactive. Because LUCA needs a lot of screen space, we decided to start it with it closed, but it can be open at any time. You also have a validation tool, which is the address review tool, which we'll be going over later. You have the export to zip, which is how a user is going to be able to create their submission. And you also have a couple of print buttons and the add imagery button. What I'd like to do is try to go over what a typical submission, or what we would call, an A+ partner, somebody who's well prepared for the LUCA program and may have their own address list in a digital form. They may have already had all their addresses geocoded using our GeoCoder tool or service, and they've probably started a review of their address counts by using our address count download tool. For somebody like that, their first step would probably be to go to this user address list tab and import their address list. When you import your address list, there's two ways to import. They must both be in CSV or text file, and then when you select the CSV file, you'll present this import options window. The import options window allows you to either map your import headers, in which case you can say that, you know, on my user address list, the state is put in this column known as state FP, or the county is in county FP, and so on and so forth. By doing this, you can have a dynamic user address list that will allow you to edit the address list, save the address list, assign GeoIDs, view your map spots if you have lat and long coordinates, and add directly to the census address list from the user address list. If your address list doesn't have all this information, or isn't really going to work in that kind of manner, but you'd still like to be able to see it, you can use the view as a read-only reference table. If you select that, you will not be able to map any of the import headers, and the table that you are importing will import directly as it would show up in any other software. You'll be able to sort the columns, but you won't be able to edit or save or see any of the map spots. To get the full use of GUPS, it would be better to map the import headers, so I'm going to finish doing that. As you can see, the only two fields that are required are house number and street name. However, the more that you can map, the better, and the less that you will have to potentially fix when you choose to add them directly to the census address list. Now you can see that I've mapped all these fields, and all I have to do is select the OK button, and the addresses are quickly imported into the user address list. Fortunately for me, they all have GeoIDs, which is great because what happens when they're imported is in the address count list, which has been updated for 2020, we have a local housing unit count and a local GQ count, as you can see here and here. So what happens is that when you load the census data, the original housing unit and current housing unit numbers will be populated for you. As soon as you add in the local housing unit, this will be populated for you. Then there is a sum done in the difference so that you can see where the biggest discrepancies are in housing units and group quarters between what the census has and what the local has. This is probably one of the easiest ways to start a review for a participant. If a participant imported addresses that have map spots but for whatever reason do not have a GeoID, that address will not be calculated in the count list. However, if that address is still located within their jurisdiction, they can simply highlight it, click the Assign GeoID button, and as you can see here, what GUPS will do is auto-populate the state, county, tract, block, and GeoID fields based on where that lat and long coordinate is on the map. This is a really neat feature, and it's going to be very helpful for the users that don't have GeoID in their data. That also happens extremely quickly, and then as you can see, you get an action code C because technically that address has been edited in some manner. When it comes to doing your review, as I said before, one of the easiest ways and probably the best way to start for somebody who is unsure of what they should be doing is to, after they've loaded their user address list, is to sort by difference in housing units or sort by difference in GQs. This is going to let you see where the biggest differences are between a local data and the census data. At this point, you can select one of these blocks, which have a difference of 22 and 17 respectively, and it will zoom to that block. If you select the deselect tool, you can see that the black dots are the census address points, and the blue triangles are the user address points. And you can see that there's clearly a bunch of user addresses that the census appears to not have. If after a little bit more research you find that the census list truly does not have these addresses, the easiest way to get them into the census address list is to click on the user address list tab, click on the selection tool in the user address list, highlight them on the map, and you can see they've all been selected, and just click the Add to Census List button. Now what's happening up here is this is being recalculated, and as you can see now these are zeroed out because the census list and the local list have the same amount of addresses in this block. And as you can see on the user address list, because they were moved, they all have an M action code. And in the census address list, all those addresses have been added, and they will all have an A action code. After you click Save, all the bolded will become regular font to let you know that all the information has been saved to the table. If you'd no longer like to see both sets of data on top of each other like this, we've added a checkbox that will allow the user to no longer see all of their user addresses, but only see the addresses that haven't been moved to the census address list. Simply by checking this box off, you can now see that you still have the blue triangles for user addresses that haven't been moved to the census list, but anything that has been moved to the census list no longer appears. It's just a small piece that might help the user with determining what data is theirs and what is on the census list. If you've performed your review and you find that the census list is pretty much correct, however, there's some sort of error within the list itself in the address, there's two ways to go about editing that address. Because the address list is designed similar to a spreadsheet, you can simply double-click in a cell, the cell highlights, and then you can edit the address as you need. When you click out of the cell, the edited cell will become bolded to let you know that you've edited it, and there will be an automatic C action code for change placed in the action column. If I decided I didn't need that or I made a mistake and I wanted to go back, I can simply hit the Clear Edits button, and what it will do is remove the edits that are in bold and return you back to what was there before. If the other way to edit an address is to select the entire address row, select the Edit button, and the Address Update pop-up window will appear in the right. This window allows you to see all of the address information in one tight little area so that you can edit or change or potentially add a map spot or move a map spot. For this, we're just going to edit the street name, and then we're going to add a map spot. So this will be Maxine Road. And then to add a map spot, you just click the Add Map Spot button, click where you want to add this new map spot. You get a crosshair, you hit the OK button, and as you can see, as soon as you hit the Add Map Spot, as soon as you hit on the map, the Latin long are populated for you, as well as the state, county, tract, and block are populated as well. You hit the OK button, and the address point is added, as well as all of these edits. You hit the Save button, and the changes have been saved. If you find that an address is not in your jurisdiction, you can simply highlight the address, select the Out of Jurisdiction button, and a J will be assigned to that address. Similarly, if you find that an address is non-residential or should not be in the address list at all, you can simply select the address, select the non-residential button or the delete button, and they will be populated with an N or D respectively. Again, just hit the Save button and the edits will be saved. A good reminder to always use the Save button as often as you can. Additionally, for people with larger address lists, what you'll see in the Census Address List window is this little Select button in the bottom. What this drop-down menu does is it allows you to filter either by certain fields, whether you want to find all the addresses that have Bluegrass Road. Like here, you'd be able to type that in using the column filter, or you can filter by block. So if I wanted to just see the addresses in this block, I hit the block filter. I then select this button at the top for the selection tool. I select the block's highlighted. I select the search button back down here. And now the only addresses that are showing in my address list are the 28 out of the 805 that currently are in this block. And of course, we have a bunch with A's because we added so many from the user address list. If you needed to have more than one block, say you were comparing what's on one side of the street versus something on the other side of the street, which I imagine is extremely typical for users, you can do that as well using the same tool. Use the block filter, the selection tool, say we'll select this block, and this block you use the control key, push that block, now we've got two blocks selected, you hit the search button, and now we've got both of those blocks in this list. Of course, there's only one address in that one block, right here. Lastly, and of course saving the best for last, is that with this version of GUPS, we have a ton of built-in validations for the address list. So let's say a person would like to edit an address in the census address list, but they incorrectly put in a zip code that only has 4 digits. The validations can be as simple as that. They'll check to make sure that there's 5 digits in the zip, and can get as complicated as checking to see that the lat-long coordinate for this address is located within the block that it says it's in, and make sure that the block and tract and block are valid for the person's jurisdiction. Now, I know that sounds very complicated, but what that does is it helps prevent the user from submitting addresses that they shouldn't be submitting, or submitting incorrect addresses. It makes our processing life a lot easier and straightforward. Now, if this is what I put in, and there's clearly an error here, when I click the Save Edits button, validations are currently being run, and you get a census error list. If I click on this address, which is the same address that's right here, and click Fix, and the address update window pops up, and it gives me exactly what's wrong with this address. Yes, again, in this case, the zip code needs to be 5 digits, and it's only 4. So I can simply change that to 5, and select OK, and the address will no longer be in the error list, and the address gets saved to the address list. At this point, if I've completed my review, there's only 2 steps left before I can completely submit. The first step is to use this address review tool at the top of the screen, which again performs all the validations that you see throughout the saving and editing process, but additionally checks for duplicates through the entire address list. Now, for me, I know that this shouldn't have any errors because we didn't make a ton of changes, and again, as you see, there's not a lot of errors. From there, I can go to the Export to Zip button, which nice and neatly exports the entire submission, zips and encrypts it, and prepares it so that you can submit it through SWIM. Additionally, if there were some sort of validation error that occurred between doing the address review tool and the export to zip, another set of validations are run very quickly to make sure that that hasn't happened. When you select that button and your file passes, you are presented with the contact information form. If you wish to update it, you can, but it's completely up to you. You select the OK button, and all your data has been zipped and encrypted and placed in this location, so you can select the Yes button to see where that is. And as you can see, you have two different files in here. The reason why is because you have this file, which is for your address returns, and in the event that you had made edits to the contact page or had made linear feature road updates, they would be a shapefile that was zipped into this one. At this point, you can select both of these, or one or the other, and submit them through SWIM for your submission. And this concludes your GUPS demonstration.
So, you know, it's not like you had to memorize everything that the video had. But the important thing to take away is that it does a lot of the work for you. It's a real simple program, and I would encourage people to use it if they can, if they feel comfortable with it. If they're more comfortable with paper, or you have just a small entity that you're working with, paper might be the best way to go. But or if you're very good with Excel, you can submit everything in Excel sheets. But if you want to go for the GUPS, it's a good program. So, just looking at this screen, you have, your standard tools. Then you got this special LUCA toolbar, which is the GUPS programs, and you can add roads with that also. You have your map, and these tables, you can undock them, just like in ArcMap, and you can use, if you have two screens on your computer, then you can undock these tables and move them around and make your map bigger and have your databases on the other side. So it's a pretty straightforward program. So I would encourage everybody to go for GUPS. These are some of the things that were on the video. And this PowerPoint will be available to you in the near future for download to go through and look at it again. GUPS does this validating, so it tells you if you've got something wrong. If you've entered something incorrectly, a bad zip code, or whatever, it helps with the validations.
So not only like leaving, if you put in 4 numbers instead of 5, but it'll actually look, and if you put in like the wrong 5-digit number, like 59602 versus 59601, it would catch that.
Possibly not the zip code, but it has some pretty smart tools, so it should catch the zip codes, but that's not the most important aspect. It's the address number, and it's the Latin long that we want. So, and it automatically creates that Latin long place in the map. But and make sure that you don't have two spaces in between a house number and the street name and the, or if, you're missing some stuff or if you've got too many things in there, it'll tell you. So it cleans up your data, and if you're running in ArcMap or in Excel, you're going to have to spend extra time possibly looking at some of the errors that are easily made. We all make mistakes.
What does it do with multiple units?
Well, it would be in the address.
Okay. We've got a field for it, so it's going to put a field in there?
It would be I think it's in the address where the address is, not a specific field.
Okay.
It would be just part of the address, like 1876 South Elm Street, apartment A. It would all be in one. It would all be in one field.
But if you had 100 units without one address, you'd have 100 points right there?
Yeah, you would have A, B, C. It would have all those numbers, and as a...
And if some of them were commercial and some of them were residential, we would only have the residential ones in there because we would have sorted it prior to that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we do not want the commercial, because that... Right. Just the residential.
Simplifies things a bit, yeah.
And if you don't have your commercial and residential addresses separated out, it might be a good time to do that, for your own sake. It just does a lot of checks, address review tool, and it automatically zips stuff up. It takes a lot of the headache away from doing this. Okay. So then we'll go into paper address materials and your product preferences are paper addresses. And if you have up to 6,000 addresses, you're going to get reams of paper, and it's going to be a lot of work. So if you have everything in Excel, that would probably be a better option to go with that. But if you've got a few hundred addresses in your entity, paper might be the way to go too. It's up to you. And for your product preferences, you got a paper address list and you get a large format map. It's like 30 inches by 30 inches. And you can get paper address lists, and you can get PDF maps where you could print out the PDF and get these maps. And you might only have to print out the ones, or just look at them, in your files and decide which maps you need to look at, and each map will have just one block in it. It'll be listed by block number. And you want the census residential addresses, your address list. All the stuff contains geographic codes, state, county, census tract, and down to the census block. And we need we give you that, and we need that when you send it back. You get legal size paper, and you get 6 addresses per page. So it turns into a lot of paper. And we only want the paper back that you make changes to. So, you know, I don't know. And this is what it would look like if you're going for the paper addresses.
Oh, you have your mic on or your volume on probably.
Oh, my email. I'm going to kill that. Okay. So this is what the paper address list would look like, and you'd be making edits to this, and it could get a little tedious. Okay, so the address list add page, and the form number is 2008, and it's Title 13, and you use this to add your, new or missing addresses, and these would be the ones you would send back to us. We don't want a lot of, you don't have to send back the stuff if you haven't made changes to it. And here's your add page. So this would, you'd be adding new stuff to here and writing it out by hand.
So you're not providing a map spot for it, you're just providing an address, right? Or
I think we do have the map spot on the PDF maps.
the maps. Okay.
On the PDF maps, you get a map spot where the address would likely be. And here's the address count list. Remember, it was we have that. That is not Title 13. It just has the block tallies, and it's on reference only. But we do show, unable to geocode. So we do want, I believe you're going to be able to put spots on the PDF. You'd have to print out the PDF and put the map spot on, on the map someplace. But we prefer the addresses. This is our, address count list per block. So and you could compare your address list to this address count list by block. And here's a little more on paper map materials. Your product preferences, paper map. Okay, you can have large format maps, block to map relationship lists, and your PDF small format block maps. And these are Title 13. So this is kind of where you would decide what you would most want your entity to get, with your LUCA. And if you have questions about this and you don't know exactly what you want, give us a call and we'll try to walk you through it. So the large format maps, the 36 by, I think they're 36 by 30 maps. There's no Title 13 data on it. And it's just kind of for your reference. Oh, 36 by 32, there it is. It has index sheets and it would have a lot of blocks printed on it. And I think it's coming up. So here's what it would look like. As an ID down here. And it comes, there's a total of 9 sheets, so you would get 9 of these big sheets of paper. And then it has, each one, like here's number 1, here's number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So. And then you get the smaller sheets. Each one of those, let's go back. So like, this is one sheet. You got 6, see in the blue line here. Can you all see that okay? Okay, so let's go back. So here's your 6 again, maps, zoomed in. And there's no Title 13 on this. It's pretty much just for your reference. And we do have some insets where it's really difficult if there's a lot of stuff going on. So here was that inset. Here's the large map. It was number 4, zoomed in, and so then we give you another sheet.
And even if you're doing this in GUPS, do you get the paper maps? No, that's only if you request.
Right.
And do you guys custom make them for everybody as they request them, or have you made them for everybody so we can get them?
You only get them if you choose that option.
Okay, you guys only probably make them. Okay.
Right. It's not. Just because if you choose GUPS, you're not going to get paper. You can't. I think you will be. You can download these maps from someplace on our website. We got it all for the whole country.
Okay, cool.
These kinds of maps.
Because it just might be nice if we're doing GUPS, but we're working with someone that would do better looking at a paper.
Yeah. And I would, I'd have to get those, where you can find those. As with the Census Bureau, it's not always easy finding where stuff is because there's just so much data out there. So, you get a lot of paper with this. And then with PDF small format block maps, you get 1 block per piece of paper, and they're 8.5 by 14. They're delivered on the DVD, and it requires a password because it is Title 13, and we'll send you the password in a separate mailing. And this can turn into a lot of maps, PDF stuff too. You get index sheets, parent sheets, and insets. Because some blocks, if it's a city block, that's a small map. But out in the country, you can have a block that's, 10 or 20 square miles, and maybe you have just a few people living in small areas, then so it you know, we do send out the insets also. So here would be the parent sheet.
Is every part of the country a block, or are there no block areas or areas that are not a part of them?
Everything is a block.
Okay.
Except I think, you know, large bodies of water may not be a block. You know, like Salt Lake,
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes, and
Okay. The interior national parks, though, and things like that.
Yes, everything's blocked out because people live in the national parks, and
Parts of it, yeah.
you know, like in Yellowstone, they're living in you know, residences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have campgrounds and all this, yeah.
Yeah. So everything is pretty well blocked out.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a lot of data. I mean, and
Is everything pretty much marked whether or not it's Title 13? I see that has a little box on it.
this, what you're looking at, there's no Title 13 on it.
So when we get the map.
When you get the map,
You got it.
it would have Title 13 on it.
Training illustration at the bottom there.
Yeah, you know, there could be, see, we would be looking at this 1,000 in the well, this piece here would be, but it's a huge block, so then they break it up into two other blocks, two other maps, I believe, right? No, that's different. This would be like your map spots here. So you would see these along this, and these are roads, different map spots. It's all fake data, what you're looking at now.
But in terms of if you get the paper, everything that is Title 13 will be marked individually on the page somewhere there.
Yes.
It's actually Title 13 versus.
Yes, it would have it in the header someplace here.
Yeah, just like all of these slides say not. Yeah.
So you can get parent sheets, and then yeah, and then zoomed in areas. So you can end up with a lot of PDFs, and might be a lot of work. So here's like your parent sheet, and then you got, you know, gives you a key of where this map is. See, this one is A1. Gives you the key over here. Okay, let's move on to submission. And I know this is quite a ways down the road. Okay, in the next few slides, we'll discuss preparing and submitting updated address materials, the map materials. So for participants with paper address lists, the next few slides discuss preparing paper address materials by sorting and keeping materials secure, as well as assembling and organizing those materials in preparation for submission. For the digital address list participants, the slides discuss sorting, saving, and keeping the materials secure, as well as assembling and organizing those materials in preparation for submission. Address materials, paper. Sorting and keeping secure. Ensure that you have completed your review and all your updates you wish to submit. Separate the updated address list pages from the pages without updates. We don't want the stuff that's that you're not putting changes on. Just the updates. And ensure all address lists ad pages are properly complete with accurate heading information. And make copies of the updated pages for your records for use during the feedback phase scheduled for the summer of 2019. So, you know, go ahead and run some copies off and save them, lock them away until you hear back from us in the summer of 2019. And we will send you what we've ingested into our system and some of the and what we've rejected, and then you can, you know, tell us why you think stuff that was rejected should be in there.
So when we eventually have to destroy all of, but we wait until after the validation phase to get rid of all of the data.
Yes, after the feedback period, which is the summer of 2019. So you can keep your materials until this feedback period ends, and you know,
you guys will give us a date that they have to probably be destroyed by the data.
Right.
Okay.
And you can either shred the stuff yourself, or you can send it back to us.
Okay.
And you would sign a form that says you've destroyed it, you know, you burned it or had it.
Shredding would probably be good.
At a bonfire, you know, get this stuff out of here.
That confidentiality and security guidelines, is that a document that's somewhere?
Yes, and you will get that. You will get the document that says that you have destroyed the materials, and you're signing, you know, it's a legal document that says you've destroyed it, or you could just ship it back to us and we'll destroy it. But either way, you know, it'll.
And I think when you sign the LUCA paperwork, you're agreeing to all of that, and they gave us a copy, I believe.
Yeah.
In the confidentiality and secure, yeah. I mean, you know, don't get hung up on this whole security thing, Title 13, that, you know, we hunt you down if something's wrong, or we come into your office at, you know,
FBI.
You know, I don't think we have census. Yeah, we don't have. I might be the only policeman out there. Who knows? You know, it's not. You know, don't get hung up on, you know, and fear the Title 13 issue to where you wouldn't do it because of that. It's not. I mean, we have to keep stuff secure, but you know, there's just rules, you know, the way the law was written. So we are on. Okay. You can bundle and return the stuff to the Census Bureau and organize your address lists and just include the ad pages. Things have to be wrapped securely. You will get all this information on how to wrap stuff up and submit it back to us in the mail. It has to be double sealed, and there's stickers that you'll get that you put on the envelopes And we pay the postage. And doing the address materials, if you're sending it back by a SWIM account, and I'll be where you can download it directly to the Census Bureau, or if you were to burn a CD and you've done it in ArcMap, you have to submit the names exactly the way you know, we have it. All this information, you don't have to memorize it now, but you know, everything has to be sent back correctly, because when we're getting tens of thousands of these back, you know, we can't take the mistakes. You know, it's just you know, everybody has to do, you know, help us out as much as they can.
And then when you do it digital, you're also only submitting the changes.
Just the changes, yes. But the way you label the file, you know, we're here, name the new file. It would be LUCA 20 _ your entity ID, which would be, you know, the county ID or city ID, _ these are the changes and what type of changes they are, and this is addresses, and zip it up. Make a copy, save it off on a jump drive, really, you know, and put it in a locked place until the review session, the feedback time is. So you'll get all this information on how to assemble and save the stuff back. Here we go, preparing updated map materials. You know, keep everything secure, and, you know, keep your digital stuff secure.
Is there any way that with the Title 13 stuff, if we find that you have structured data that we've missed, is there any way to, you know, strip out the Title 13 stuff and save any of the structures that you've had that we've missed?
Okay, see, that would be a violation because we're giving you data and then you're ingesting it into your system.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
There's no way to...
There's a way around it.
Okay.
Is you could go out, drive out to the field, verify that point on your own, or you could pull up Google, look at it and say, oh, hey, here's a house, and here's the address. I have verified that, you know, essentially you are verifying something.
Yeah.
And then you can say, well, hey, let's add this point to our file.
Yeah.
So don't you have to verify it anyhow? Because if you have it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct either, right? Because he's needing to verify your points if they don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So to some extent, you'd have to do that anyhow.
So if you verify a point that we have that you don't, then you can.
Okay. Yeah.
You can
create your own.
But there's no way.
You're creating your own point out of.
But there's no way to export it out. It's just,
no.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be a Title 13 violation.
Sure.
But if you pull it up on Google and verify it,
yeah,
you own it. Okay. So
I get it. Yep.
You got it? Okay. So there are ways.
You can use them to direct you to the right answer.
Yeah. You are verifying our stuff, and then because you verified it.
You know it.
It's your data now. Okay? So.
Yep, no, not a problem.
Okay. So, ensure everything's complete with all updates. Separate your updated map sheets, your non-Title 13 stuff. You'll get all this information, you know, on how to send this stuff back to us, and we'll be putting out, you know, some more videos on how to do this. So, you know, don't worry about it too much right now. It's you know, this is years away, or you know, months away for a lot of this stuff. So, you know, you have for the paper stuff, bundle and return stuff, saving and exporting. No, all I can say is everything has to be put in these. The way you send this stuff back has to be done in a certain in a certain way. But you'll get all that information, and you'll be calling us.
And that's for if you're using your GIS. If
Yes.
you use GUPS, you don't have to do that because GUPS does it all.
Right. Right. This is if you're using ARC, and this is a screenshot of an ARC thing, and if you're updating edges or the roads, you can do that. And just give us the new roads. You don't have to give us everything back. And see over here where my cursor is, there's SMD type, and that would be your add. So you've added those roads. So there's a code for adding or deleting, or an N would be for not in your jurisdiction, or no, J is. So 79. So a lot of this, you know, we just need everything sent back correctly so we can ingest it very easily into our system. And here's some of the accompanying paperwork, your inventory, and the best way to return digital stuff is to get a SWIM account. And you'll get a token to be able to get that. Do you have a SWIM? It's a great way to, yeah. And if you don't have a CD-ROM, you can actually get an account to download the GUPS data. I'm not supposed to say that.
Recorded.
Well, it looks like you could download the GUPS for the school district review program right from the website. So will that be the case for LUCA?
It will be, but we would prefer to send it out with a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because
You mean all the
It's
other
more
data.
secure.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, I mean, it would be secure, but you know, a lot of people don't have CD-ROMs now. I mean, you know, if you're going to put it on a laptop now, most laptops, you know, if you're putting it on a standalone computer, most laptops don't come with a CD-ROM, DVD.
We have some old ones, though, so.
But it's so I mean, if it does become an issue, then
You guys will work with us.
yeah, we'll work with you. Okay, so And you'll get all the shipping instructions, and we pay the postage. And but the SWIM is a slick way to get digital data to us. And
The next one.
okay, next one. Okay, so I don't know what SWIM stands for. Some kind of an acronym, and I should have it. I might have it here.
Secure Web Incoming Module.
Okay.
Secure Web. What?
Incoming module.
Secure Web Incoming Module.
Secure Web Incoming Module. So you'll get a information on how to set up a SWIM account if you already don't have one, and you can only get we'll only take a zip file, and it has a 250 meg limit, and I would think that everything in Montana would fit in less than 250 megs. All your ads, you're just looking at ads and changes.
Yeah, not everything.
It's not everything, so it's all zipped. So it would I don't think we have to worry about that. Okay. And then once the Census Bureau receives your submission, they will process it for validation. After validation concludes in the summer of 2019, the Census Bureau prepares the LUCA feedback materials for shipment soon after. The Census Bureau begins outreach to close out the LUCA operation and confirm the destruction, which is the preferred method, or return of all Title 13 materials for participants that did not provide a 2020 LUCA submission, or for those that indicate they do not wish to receive feedback. The Census Bureau must receive a signed destruction or return of Title 13 materials form, which is a 2012 D2012 form, which confirms destruction or return of Title 13 materials as required by law. This form was included with the original LUCA materials, but it is also included in the respondent guide. The confidentiality and security guidelines, Form D 2004, outline the process for both destruction and return of the materials. So you'll get all the information on how to return the materials. We're almost through. Yay. Filing an appeal is optional and is not a requirement of the LUCA operation. If participants agree with the Census Bureau's feedback materials, then their LUCA participation ends. So if you agree that everything that, when we give you feedback materials and you agree, your participation ends, and then we can start on the new construction part of it. Participation concludes by providing the completed D2012 destruction and return form and discussed in the previous slide, and as soon as possible, eliminate your entry from the Census Bureau follow-up. So please get that back to us, and then we stop bugging you. We'll bug you about some other new stuff, but
Your LUCA will be done.
your LUCA will be done. And then if the choice is to return the LUCA materials rather than destroy them, the participants must follow the shipping instructions by double wrapping, and it's all outlined in the confidentiality and security guidelines to ensure protection of the Title 13 materials. and notify the LUCA Appeals Office managed by the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, of disagreement with feedback materials. They will work with you and the Census Bureau to resolve all disagreements. So it's the Office of Budget and Management, Office of Management and Budget. They work with the two parties, Census Bureau and you. And then after determination to accept or reject disputed addresses by the Appeals Office, the Census Bureau includes addresses accepted by the Appeals Office into the 2020 Census Enumeration Universe. Once the appeals process concludes, participants must destroy or return Title 13 materials to the Census Bureau and submit a signed destruction form. Okay. So when you need support or assistance, go to the LUCA webpage, and you can get to that by typing into a Google LUCA Census, and it'll take you to this page. And I would encourage you to download the Frequently Asked Questions document. It's there. A lot of good answers to your questions. If not, you can call the Geographic Program Support Desk, which is an 800 number, but they will probably refer your questions on to the Denver office, so you might just want to call this number at the bottom, 720-962-3880, or you can email us at geo.2020.luca@census.gov, and we'll get those. So there's a lot of ways to get help. Don't hesitate to give us a call directly to the Denver office. And you can connect with us on all these different things.
And here's also my contact information. So you can either contact Dwayne's group if you have questions, or if you're working with Michael or I, can talk to us.